Welcome to United Jews channel.
So what would you recommend for a kid who is who feels that he can help other Jewish friends on campuses? Should this person try to find all the Jews around himself and kind of engage them in conversations and then recommend to be asked for difficult discussions if they exist, if they arise, so that he can
it's
help?
hard because they're still kids, right? Like they're no kid that I know is going to go up to people they don't know and tell them, hey, I'll be your go-to Jew. But but if they go to like a Hillel event, or they go to like, an event where there's lots of other Jewish people, they can just make it very known. Say, hey, I'm always here. I'm always willing to try and help answer questions. And if I don't know, I'll try to help you find out. I mean, look, I'm not even Jewish. That's the funny part, right? The only reason I even got involved in any of this was because I had a very good Jewish friend, and I saw the nonsense that she was going through, right? So it pissed me off. Now, I tell Masha this all the time. It's all about relationships. Once you actually know people and care about them, you're more motivated to go to bat for them, right? Now, but it's up to you to get out there and build those relationships, because like the average person that doesn't know a single Jewish person, they're absolutely not going to get involved. They won't, unless they have some kind of religious or political thing. They're not going to care, because it's the 80-10-10 rule. Right? 80% don't give a shit. 10% are on your side no matter what, and 10% hate you no matter what. So we have to find a way to reach that 80%, because that 80% is the place where you're going to get a lot of movement. So like when Jewish people, you're going to laugh, but my friend, the first actual like Jewish friend I knew that was really very Jewish and was very, spiritual and everything, my friend Sarah. This is how she found me. I wrote something on Facebook. She messaged me on Facebook, and she said, hey, I'd like to pick your brain about some things. You don't know me. This is going to seem a little bit weird, but can I take you out for supper and just ask you a few questions? And I was kind of like, who's this random person? And then I look on her Facebook, and yeah, she's good looking and stuff. But I mean, I was just kind of like, it's kind of weird for somebody you don't know to reach out to you to ask you questions. But I went for dinner with her. She interrogated me for like an hour and a half, asked me more questions in an hour and a half than I'd ever been asked in my life. And no joke, within about 3 months, without even realizing it, I had a new friend that was pretty much already my best friend. And all she ever did was ask me questions constantly. And she was just a nice person. And so when I started to get to know her and her family more, I realized, I'm like, look, like the truth of the matter is that you will defend people you care about. You're not going to go to bat really hard. Like, don't get me wrong. You see two people fighting in the street. If you don't know those two people, you might walk over and be like, hey, don't do that. Or you might call the police. Now, but if one of those people is one of your best friends, you're going to jump in, right? Because that's what you do when you care. And so it's our job now to teach people that the most important thing for you to do is to build these relationships and to build your knowledge base, so that when you are challenged, you can fight back. Because if you don't have the knowledge, you just don't have the tools.
So I want to ask you about Hillel, because this organization is very dear to me. I was a leader at Hillel myself many years ago. From the perspective of Hillel's leadership, what is it right now? Does it all depend on the person who becomes a director of Hillel? Like, what do they get instructed on how to lead services? I don't know anymore. I don't know what's going on. If you can tell us, well, Masha knows the answer.
Hillels are semi-autonomous, right? And this is something I never really learned until probably after the 4th or 5th different Hillel that I'd been to. Because like when I originally started doing this stuff, the people that generally invited me to speak on campus were generally involved with Hillels, right? What I learned was that there is an overall Hillel International, but they don't really have any power. They don't really have any control. Each Hillel is like semi-autonomous. So you have Hillels that run the gamut. You'll have a Hillel where, like the one at UBC in Canada, where the Hillel had the Palestinian flag draped on a table. Or you might go to somewhere like the Hillel in Indiana, at the University of Indiana, and where they're hardcore Zionists. And, you know, if somebody ever tried to bring a Palestinian flag in there, they'd probably kick their ass. Like, it goes in that whole spectrum. Then you also have Hillels, like, you know, at Columbia University, where they're all about coexistence and we need to get along, and we'll have a Palestinian film festival. I mean, that's part of the problem, is that there is no consistent standard. So you never know. And the only way you'll ever find out is if your kid goes to that school.
Right, but you can also research ahead of time. So Hillel International is the hat, right, the shapka of the name, of the franchise, if you will. And then each Hillel, they fundraise by themselves, and they really depend on the local, sort of like local leadership, right? Mm-hmm. The executive director that gets hired sort of like will do the wishes of the board, or will throw
out of the window everything they asked him to do. Yeah.
Correct.
So
Correct.
It depends on executive director, right? That's the main person.
It depends on executive director and the board. The problem is that a lot of times, what I've noticed, and I will be diplomatic here, which is not I'm not frequently. I'm not known to be a diplomatic person, but I can tell you that in the Bay Area, for example, there is a Hillel that I'm watching now. You know, I think 3 or 4 executive directors span, right? And they're all, I'm sorry, but like, they haven't done anything for Israel. They're too afraid to do anything, but their board, because I'm speaking to their board members, they think that they are, right? They think that they are. And their big accomplishment was, oh, look, we passed a resolution to which J Street also agreed to. See, to me, that would be a red flag. To me, that would be like, wait a second, J Street agreed to something and SJP agreed to it and Hillel?
Yeah.
Okay, well, then that means you're idiots and you're sold out. But that Hillel was particularly proud of that achievement.